Motion in my name and that of Councillor John Hunt. This motion builds on my request to the leader last month to invite the Mayor of the West Midlands to attend a future meeting of the City Council. I was pleased by Councillor Cotton's response that he was not only happy to pick this up with Richard Parker, but that improving engagement between the City Council and the Combined Authority was already being discussed as part of the Constitution Working Group. And as pleased as I was to get a supportive nod from the leader, we have articulated in the motion that we'd like the Mayor of the West Midlands to commit to attend once a year and provide a report that can be discussed and with an opportunity to ask questions. This isn't just a nice to have, it is a necessary piece of democratic and accountable governance between the city and the region, as it involves multi-million pound funding deals across skills and employment, housing and regeneration and transport. Huge strategic levers of growth and prosperity in our city. Just last month, the City Council announced its £76 million share of the new regional devolution deal with the government, which saw the West Midlands Combined Authority receive an overall settlement of £389 million. This first integrated settlement runs from the 1st of April 2025 until the 31st of March 2026, so it would seem appropriate to hear from the Mayor before that ends and the pre-election period begins. One specific investment project identified for Birmingham's £76 million includes helping community anchor organisations to support their local area and bring underutilised spaces back into use. This seems to chime well with the localisation theme of this motion and certainly something I'd like to hear more about. Empowering local communities and paying attention to local problems is central to the Liberal Democrats' approach to community politics and has been a formally adopted strategy since the 1970s. And having started a community group myself a decade ago, representing residents, listening to their issues and working in partnership with local groups is central to my approach as a councillor. Therefore, the news that ward meetings were to be reduced to one a year was not only unacceptable for me in Yardley East, but frankly seemed ridiculous. And in fact, I would have just carried on having an open public meeting of some sort, somehow, 3 or 4 times a year. I had 30 to 40 people at my last ward meeting in May, and part of that was engagement specifically about an Environment, Transport and Neighbourhood Fund ETNF parking scheme in Old Yardley Village, which at one time was a condition of being granted the funding. Nobody was particularly happy with the solution, but with the guidance of highways officers who attended, we kept some elements and rejected the controversial bits, which felt like pretty good local democracy to me. We also had the local neighbourhood police sergeant and a couple of his officers who updated residents on local policing matters, answered questions and responded to specific issues raised of antisocial behaviour in Old Yardley Park, with patrols and a home visit afterwards. Again, that felt like effective civic partnership with the police and residents outlined in the Birmingham Promise. But for my ward meetings, I book the venue, draft the agenda, invite residents and guests and take a note of actions. The council pays a small room hire fee and if available, an officer takes a minute and publishes it as a formal record. So in theory, for less than £100 a year and with my time, we could continue to have an important open public forum for local residents to ask questions of the police and the council, as well as an opportunity for community groups to engage. But is it the duty of the council to facilitate that regular and formal engagement with residents in the community? And is it the duty of councillors, officers of the council and neighbourhood police to listen to the people of Birmingham, act on what they say and be held accountable? Of course it is, and so says the Birmingham Promise. So I would ask the Chamber to support the motion proposal to reinstate 4 ward meetings per year for the good of healthy local democracy in our city. Just to talk a little bit more about neighbourhood policing, I'm hopeful that the Chamber will welcome our proposal to hear from both the West Midlands Chief Constable Craig Guilford and the Police and Crime Commissioner Simon Foster on an annual basis. I have been a councillor since October 2021 and I have not heard from either role in any formal way in that time. And I'm not sure how effective neighbourhood policing can work in this city without a meaningful partnership with the council's local representatives working alongside neighbourhood police teams. And I have to say, and gave an earlier example, that I currently have a very good and proactive relationship with my neighbourhood sergeant and community police team at Stechford Police Station, but I don't think that is the same for all councillors, and I think it does vary according to individuals, and I'll leave my good colleagues, councillors Tilsley and Bass, to talk to us more about that and highlight some examples. But the fact of the matter is that Craig Guilford and Simon Foster have been successful in bidding to the government for and announced in April 150 new police officers and 20 new community support officers across neighbourhood policing to specifically tackle crime and antisocial behaviour at a community level. And that, in line with the government's neighbourhood policing guarantee, every ward across the West Midlands will have a named police officer. What I would question is how every ward is defined. Certainly in my ward of Yardley East, the neighbourhood police are still working to the former pre-2018 boundary change ward of Yardley and Stetchford North. But mind you, so are the council's own street cleaning team, if you can believe that. So perhaps we should get our own house in order first. But certainly clarity on the named officer for every ward is needed. West Midlands Police has also set out its ambition for neighbourhood policing in a report for the period 2023 to 2026. So I think it would be good to hear from the Chief Constable on the force's progress along that journey. And indeed, the very first chapter in the Police and Crime Plan for 2025 to 2029 by the Commissioner, Simon Foster, is rebuilding community policing. And I would welcome a presentation on his approach for the next 4 years. Finally, on the last point in the motion, we are calling on the leadership to articulate fully and at some pace how it intends to effectively devolve and improve the local delivery of services that most impact on our communities, whether that be street cleaning and fly tipping, parking and planning enforcement, or antisocial behaviour, but also for a mature approach to the effective co-production of local service delivery with our partners, whether that be the police or the voluntary sector and our communities. I'd ask the Chamber to support the motion. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harries.